I want to say welcome to today's program. For those of you that don't know, I'm Maria Tellier, the New Mexico State Director for the Mutual UFO Network, Mufon. We meet here at Otero Arts for coffee cups and flying saucers on the third Saturday of every month at 11 a.m. Today, we're going to do my end-of-year summary, and that's just this year's reported Mufon cases. I'm going to review all the Mufon cases we had in New Mexico for 2025. I'm also going to talk just a quick brief summary what we did here this year with our meetings. We had some really, really great meetings this year. And again, I want some ideas for next year. And I have a new project, Alamo UFOs for WhatsApp. Yes, Alamo UFOs. So we're going to talk a lot about that one because I worked a lot on that one. So, so we're going to start with why do I do this? It's not because I like to hear myself talk, but it's not because I think I know more than anybody else, even though I have been doing this a long time, all my life. But I just, everywhere I've ever worked, every place I've ever gone, everybody has an opinion on this topic. Everyone has something to say about UFOs, if you want to call them UFOs. I call them flying saucers. Now they call them UAPs. But everybody has an opinion. Some's good, some's bad. I've never encountered anyone who wasn't aware of this phenomenon and didn't have an opinion and didn't know somebody who maybe saw something. If they didn't see it themselves, they know somebody who saw something and told them about it. So it's a topic that we're all interested in. So if you don't like the topic, you're at the wrong meeting. Basically, we discuss flying saucers here. We talk about people who see them, people who come in contact with them, and those who get abducted by them. I review the long history of New Mexico and of ufology and local unexplainables, and then we speculate on what the future will bring to us. So I'm going to start with a review of what Mufon does. You see that? Yeah. And their mission statement. Mufon's been investigating unexplainable objects in our skies since 1969 and has a long history of being in the topic even prior to 69. There's many other UFO research groups investigating UFO activity, and they've come and they've gone, but Mufon remains. It's the longest remaining active organization, again, like I said, from 1969. And New Mexico, my God, New Mexico, I'm from the East Coast. The history you guys have out here in New Mexico and the Southwest is wow, it's phenomenal. This state has the richest ufology history. And today I'm going to go over Mufon's cases that have been investigated. As the New Mexico State Director for Mufon, I assign and I approve all casework. Again, our cases are submitted by a witness who is asking us to investigate it. We're not going out here bird dogging it and tracking this stuff down. People are sending these to us and saying, help me understand what I saw. It's at the request of the witness. And, where did I lost my place? Sorry, guys. So I just want you guys to be aware of what's going on, what's being reported in the state, what's being seen in the state, the way Mufon's handling it. And I also do research from other organizations. People report stuff on Facebook every day. Oh my God, people report stuff I wish they would report to Mufon. They report it on Facebook every day. I try to stay on top of that. There's lots of good stuff on YouTube. There's this new Enigma Labs that's putting stuff out there every day, and there are just podcasts everywhere. So I'm going to review our program, which I call Coffee Cups and Flying Saucers, and what we did last year, our attendance numbers, our finance, and next year's programs, and my new project idea. And I think a lot of us would like to participate in it, and a lot of people want, it'll be something we can talk about in the meetings. It'll be all about local stuff. So I want to start off with discussing the UFO network, Mufon. MUFON has been investigating identified flying objects at the request of the witness. The organization broke off from APRO, and it started out as the Midwest UFO Network, but in 1974, it had grown so big, it was in 38 states, and they became a nonprofit, and it just went statewide and changed the name to Mutual UFO Meeting. So MUFON doesn't support state chapters. They don't support us here. I pay for all the state stuff because, and I also have to pay for a charter, what's called a state charter. I pay $150 a year for the right to use the name MUFON and to advertise as such. So, but MUFON is very important about maintaining the integrity of the organization and witness confidentiality. That's the number one thing, witness confidentiality. We protect it like HIPAA. We protect it that much. When you join MUFON, you are given access to the database, but the witness's information is blacked out. So you join MUFON, you can look in our database and you can look up cases in New Mexico, or if you're from Arizona, you can look up stuff in Arizona, but you'll never see the witness's name or the witness's address. And if the event location happened at the witness's home, that's kind of generalized. It'll say Alamogordo. It'll never say Lindbergh Avenue in Alamogordo. It'll say Alamogordo. So we protect that kind of data. And, you know, again, like I said, it's part of the perks of becoming a basic member. Now, I'm not here selling memberships. I'm not here selling memberships, but people always want to know where can we see your stuff? And that's where you see it. Because, like I said, we're an investigative source. We're not like an Enigma Labs who posts pictures. We actually have the nuts and bolts of the case. You can read about what the witness said and what they saw, and you know, the particulars of the case, which is some people's very, very interesting. There's a lot of researchers out there that really like to have that data. So when I get a report to investigate, I go about determining all the things it's not. When we say the scientific method of investigation, you have to start throwing out all the things it's not. Something's flying in the sky. The first thing I do is make sure it's not a plane, or verify it's not a plane, verify it's not aircraft, a helicopter, blah, blah. You know, you gotta check off all the things it's not to get to what it is. And sometimes when you get to the end, after you've thrown everything else out, it's unknown. Because until somebody says, there are orbs and this is what they are flying saucers and this is what they are, until then, they're unknown. Because right now, that's their classification by our government and the powers that be. So MUFON promotes their research with programs like this one. They had a TV show for a couple of years called Hangar One. It's still on Tubi. The MUFON investigators, like myself, are frequently interviewed by local and national TV reporters when something happens, like that big drone incident on the East Coast. They were pulling in MUFON investigators and MUFON state directors from Jersey and PA and New York and talking to them. What is it? You know, they were looking to us as experts to try to explain what it is. And we still don't know what it is, but it wasn't all drones, not all of them. So, and also I've been interviewed. I've been interviewed by that TV station KOB in Albuquerque. I was interviewed by PBS in Las Cruces. And recently I was on a radio show in Santa Fe, KSFR. You know, people want to interview me all the time. I got a call last night to go on another radio station. So, you know, they're looking to me as an expert, which is surprising, but I try not to cuss when I talk to them because you guys You guys know how it goes, but I try to clean it up when the cameras are rolling, it's the kind of thing. So we also have a really famous guy, Mark D'Antonio. If any of you have ever heard of Mark D'Antonio, he is an absolute expert in astronomy. He's a physicist. He's an astronomer. He's an absolute expert on that, and also on AI. He was one of the forerunners of the AI in doing that, which he's a really smart guy, and he used to be in the Connecticut chapter, and that's how I know him so well, because when I was in Connecticut, he used to talk at our meetings all the time. He used to come to the meetings because he was a member. He didn't investigate, but he was a great resource, and he taught us all how to do photo analysis and how to when someone submits a picture and we look at it, he taught us how to determine whether it was forged or enhanced or faked or just lifted off the internet. Mark D'Antonio taught us how to do that. And you'll see that guy, he has a podcast, Skywatch. He's unbelievable. Also, Mufon has been at every one of the congressional hearings since they started in these last 9 years, eight years or so. The Mufon sits next to a guy by the name of Danny Sheehan. I don't know if you know Danny Sheehan. He's that lawyer with the curly white hair. He's an acclaimed civil rights attorney to begin with, but he's in the forefront of disclosure and the transparency advocacy movement. But Mufon sits next to him. So we've been at every one of those. And we're one of the experts. When you see him in front of the White House talking, one of our guys is standing there next to him. So that's always kind of cool to see that. So again, I was saying that basic membership gives you access to the database, and becoming, the next step is to become a field investigator. I started as a field investigator in 2012 in Connecticut. It's countless hours of your time trying to figure out what a stranger saw or experienced. I call it the ultimate jigsaw puzzle. The training involved begins with purchasing a Mufon field investigator manual, studying it, and you have to pass a 100-question test to become a field investigator. Then after you do that, you've got online training at Mufon University, where they go through these training PowerPoints and videos. And then when you're done, you get turned over to the state director. You get turned over to me. And your first 5 cases, I work with you on your first 5 cases and make sure you're following the scientific method of investigation. Also, all the investigators that I have, when they turn their cases in, I've got to go through and make sure they did it right. I've got to go make sure that they if there was film, if there was a photo submitted, that they did their research and they made sure it wasn't fake, and they made sure they didn't steal it from somewhere or lift it off of Facebook, which so many people do. So there's just a lot of stuff that's involved with field investigation. And from my point, so these are the free apps that anybody can use. They're online. The number one is Stellarium. I'm always telling people when they see a light or they see something, did you look on Stellarium? I had a case 2 months ago. My field investigator didn't check Stellarium. It was serious. The guy was looking at it's serious. When I brought up Stellarium, dialed in the guy's location, put it in the location. He saw a big blue light. Serious. So, that's one of the first things I'm always on everybody about. Flight Radar 24 gives you the freebies. We're knowing all the commercial flights are. It's free. It's free. It's me, Commercial flights, civil patrol. Civil air patrol is your helicopters coming in and out of the hospital. It's those red-tailed planes that you see flying low. Those are the guys from fire. They're looking for fires in the forests. That's a part of Civil Air Patrol, and that comes out of KALM, White Sands here in Alamogordo. Border Patrol shows up on Flight Radar, and balloons. Believe it or not, balloons show up on Flight Radar. Now, not all military shows up. However, their flight pattern shows up. If you click on the plane, it shows you where the plane came from. It doesn't take a genius to follow that and see that it came out of Holloman. You realize that it's military. Flight radar gives you the ability to do that. Photo forensics is the thing I use when I'm looking at a photo to see the background of it and the metadata to see if somebody's enhanced it or changed it, or if there's no metadata, then I know they lifted it off the internet. Simple as that. And then also other factors can always be weather and Google Earth. Google Earth is such a good to work with because I can't drive all over this state to look at where cases have happened. Google Earth enables me to dial the location up. If someone says they were looking at something and I dial it into Google Earth and there's a mountain in front of me and there was no way they could have saw it, I can rule a lot of stuff out using Google Earth for that. Again, that's another freebie. These are our cases. These are our cases for 2025. Year to date, we've had 68 cases. I have completed 65 of them. 10 of those cases did not happen in 2025. They happened the previous year. So you can always report an event no matter when it happened. I prefer that you report it right away because it's when it's still fresh in your mind. And if there's any evidence, I can find it. That makes it a lot easier. So, and investigators were required to complete our cases in 60 days. So, New Mexico pretty much did that all this year with the exception of 1 cases. So when you're breaking this down, 31 cases were what we call IFOs, which are identifiable flying objects. Most cases end this way. Of those 31 cases, 9 of them were Venus. Honest to God, Stellarium, it was Venus. I had 3 reports of Border Patrol blimps, SpaceX rockets, Starlinks, and F-16, a lunar eclipse, an ISS, a bug, and lens flares. I had 4 reports from Albuquerque of an object that was all viewed on April 12th at about the same time. It was a weather balloon. Now that weather balloon made state, local, and national news. I don't know why it was so important that many people reported it and it made all those news outlets, but it did. But we had 4 cases here in New Mexico of that balloon. Now, the 19 cases that were unknowns, I love unknowns. I call that the flying saucer category because that's what it is. We don't know what it is. So the number 1 example this year of unexplainables were orbs, and I'm calling them orbs. Technically, they're lights in the sky. No, they're orbs. So of those 19 cases, 11 of them were orbs. 11 of them throughout the state, just completely unexplainable lights that weren't from anywhere. The other cases were I had triangle, I had a rectangle, I had a couple of saucers. Now this is the thing, of all those cases that were what we call structured craft, they were all historical cases. None of them happened this year. Every one of the orbs cases happened this year and pretty quickly. They reported them within 30 days. So my question was, I was beating around, is why do people report lights in the sky other than when they see craft that they can't explain? Especially here in Alamogordo, we're by the military base. We see structure all the time. But why do they wait? Why do they hang on to it to report it? That's just like one of my peeves. I always ask those witnesses, why did you? I had a guy last week a former Border Patrol agent who saw structured craft 10 years ago, and he reported it last week. And I'm like, he saw structured craft. He saw an object. He did not see a light, and he saw structured craft and its behavior. It did a 45-degree right in front of him. Fantastic. Why didn't you report it? His job. He was afraid to report it because of his job. He retired and he reported it. So that's usually the case, is someone's afraid to report it for some reason. And it has a lot of DOD employees report structure. A lot of DOD employees and police officers report structure, but usually after the fact, way after the fact. And info-only cases are just information. I can't report it. Sometimes you call a witness up, they don't want to talk, they won't reply to you, they won't reply to your emails, your calls, your text. You have to, if you don't have enough information, you can't finish the case, and it ends up info only. Now, that one bad case, the insufficient data, 181 days. 181 days. That was due to the field investigator who was assigned to the case. He just didn't investigate it. He was assigned the case in March. In May, he told me, I quit. It was, it was really frustrating because I had been following up with him all, yeah, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. He had no intention of getting to that. And he had about 3 other cases, and I ended up finishing them all out. But that one bad one from March, and it was a fantastic case. It was someone in the line going into Kirtland. They were waiting. They worked at Kirtland, and they were in the line, and they were waiting to go through the gate. And he saw structured craft. He saw structured craft. Definitely, it wasn't a plane. It wasn't something hovering around. It could have been from Kirtland, but where he saw it wasn't over Kirtland. But I really wanted that guy to get back to me, but he never did. He was really angry that no one got back to him because he reported it like 3 days after it happened. And I was like, oh. But so, and also too, when I started out 2025, I had 4 field investigators and myself. Now I have 1. They've all quit over the years. Over the year, and they've quit for various reasons. Field investigation takes a lot of your time and a lot of your energy, and so many people go into it gung-ho thinking they're going to see ET and abductions, and I'm going to see, and you're not. You're going to see lights, a lot of lights that are Venus, and you have a lot of paperwork to do. So, and this is the first 15 cases of the year. This is how I keep track of them. I keep track of the date that they're received, the case number, the city, the event date, and then you see the field investigators' names, and that those last 2 columns are when I finished the case out, how they ended up. Now, see the highlighted ones. I'm supposed to do this when I do that. Come on. There it is. See these guys. I highlighted those for a reason. They were all reported by the same person. He went through his cell phone, and every light he took a picture of, he filed a case. So, but let me say about this, that the very first object, the one from Capitan number 8, was an unknown object. He saw a craft, and that I could not nail down to what that was. I think it got him so, hey, yeah, I saw a flying saucer, that he reported everything else. But he was an absolutely excellent witness. He was responsive. He answered questions. He supplied a lot of background data. Now, it was good because he also paid attention. I taught him how to use stellarium. I taught him how to use Flight Radar 24. So now he doesn't report every light he sees as a flying saucer. But I've got to say, though, he was a very, very good witness. And he's what I call a frequent flyer. We get frequent flyers every now and then who do that. They'll report everything they see as a flying saucer, but that's okay, because I'd rather have it than not. I'd rather have it than not. So, none of his stuff were street lights. He was the guy who took a picture of the eclipse. He took a great picture of the eclipse, and I was like, look at this strange craft, and I'm like, man, I am so sorry, that is an eclipse. But and he was very good about it too. So So educating the public is also part of what Mufon does. And this is the last summary. This is the last number crunch we're going to do. These are the last 5 years. I just summarized the last 5 years. And so you can see there were 450 cases over the last 5 years, and 39% were identifiable and 30% were unidentifiable. That was 310 cases. Either we knew what they were or we didn't. The majority of the identifiables were balloons. We have a lot of balloons in this state, especially the northern part. First of all, in Deming, anything from Deming, I've had one case from Deming that was not a Border Patrol balloon. It was an abduction case. But the balloons from Fort Sumner are the NASA Wallops Flight Facility. They frequently, from September to November, they launch these balloons with these things hanging off of them, and they're collecting data. And they fly at 127,000 feet. They're called stratocastic balloons, and a lot of people see them. There was September 14th, I had 3 cases. September 14th, that was those balloons. They were at 127 feet. And for some reason, I guess there was no wind up there, and they just hung. They just hung in the air for hours. And it was part of what was called the Cosmic Dust Collection Project. But I was surprised people could see them at 127,000 feet. I have trouble seeing something over the Sacramento is clear, but people in the Albuquerque area really see a lot of those balloons. And ERT, I talk about the experiencers, the ERT cases. Those are the abduction cases. That's your 6% of our cases were ERTs. Now, field investigators don't investigate ERT cases. I get them. I have to first verify that the person filing the report is a real person, because you got jokers out there that file stupid stuff. First thing that I do is I verify, I make contact. Things such as the weather and the date and whatnot, I have to narrow that down. But then I have to hand that over. I hand that over to the experiencer research team, and they're trained professionals. Many of them are doctors. They're counselors. A lot of them are abductees themselves who've gone through that process, and they can speak to an experiencer about it. A lot of experiencers suffer from PTSD, and you can't question them like you do a regular witness. You have to be very mindful of the experience they've gone through. And our experiencer team does that. And then also all of that information is blacked out. You get nothing in the database from the experiencer research team. That is locked down. I can't even go back and look at my case and see what happened to it, because it's blacked out. And for a reason. So we're going to talk about coffee cups and flying saucers. See, I had my first meeting here at Otero Arts in May of 2024, but I've been holding coffee cups and flying saucer meetings since 2019. I started down at Patrons Hall. Patrons Hall's next to Flickinger. That's where I started out. And then COVID hit. We all got shut down for COVID. And then I started up the street on 10th on Mad Coffee across from Albertsons. And that's where a lot of you guys came in at Mad Coffee. And we were there until May of 2024. So this is our 12th meeting of the year. We had a lot of topics this year. I did a book review of Lou Elizondo. We talked about the Farmington Armada. We talked about ufology in New Mexico, which were people from the Tularosa Basin. A lot of you people didn't know that Daryl Sims, the alien hunter, was from Alamogordo. He was from Alamogordo, and as a child, he was abducted from his home in Alamogordo 6 times. So he's a very famous ufology in Alamogordo. We talked, of course, about the Holloman incident. in April, and we will always talk about the Holloman incident in April. That's the way it goes. So May, we talked a little bit about the orbs. And in June, we talked about Trinity, the little boys that had the crash in San Antonio. And then we had a guest speaker. My first guest speaker in July was Richard Kessner. Richard Kessner was a great witness, and I'm going to get him back again. But he talked about counterintelligence, and he was great. We talked about Kiome, Charles Moody, and in October we had Lynn Buchanan. My second, he was great, man. Lynn Buchanan's coming back. He was fantastic. He was fantastic. But with our meeting with Lynn Buchanan is how I found out that you guys are really interested in abductions. That seems to really be, there's a lot of interest in abductions and that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping to do more of that this year. We'll see what the clipboard says, because the clipboard, please, if you think of anything that you would like to see and put down, please put that down there. It's very important. It will help me concentrate my research in the right direction about something that you guys want to talk about and that you want to hear about. So I call the group the Alamogordo Mufon chapter. Some of us are Mufon members and some of us are not, and it's not required. It sounds good. It sounds good. The meeting is coffee cups and flying saucers, and it just goes back to my days growing up when I used to sit at the coffee table with my grandmother and we drink coffee and talk about flying saucers and read the National Enquirer. That was always an important part. So I advertise these meetings in a lot of locations: the Alamogordo Library, grocery stores, the Chamber of Commerce calendar of events, Second Life Media, the Alamogordo Patch. I also put them in there. Alamogordo Daily News Calendar, TVIA TV station in El Paso, and KRWG, which is the PBS station in Las Cruces. They advertise our meetings. So, and I'd appreciate it if anyone will slap one of those flyers up anywhere they can put them. Put them on your bulletin boards at church, at work, wherever. Anyone, I want to tell you, I walked into the tattoo parlor on 10th. There's a tattoo parlor on 10th called Southern Lights. Just ask him if he would put the flyer in the window. And I got to talking to the guy. His name is Tony. He told me he named his tattoo parlor after the Marfa Lights in Texas. A lot of us ever heard about the Marfa Lights. He was a complete skeptic. Yeah, it's bullshit. It's a bunch of planes. He sees the Marfa Lights in Texas, and he walked out of there like a believer. So he named his tattoo parlor the Southern Lights after the Marfa Lights of Texas. So and also we have it here in the window. I can't keep enough flyers back there here at Otero Arts. People pick them up all the time. I can't keep them. I can't keep them in stock. So the attendance from January to November included our Zoomers, mostly Mr. Wolf. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Jerry does a head count, so I know how many people are here because not everybody signs in. Don't worry if you do sign in, because I don't share your information. If you've ever gotten an email from me, you are blind copied. I blind copy because I don't want to share anyone's email address with anybody else. So that's kind of how I notify. Like when Lynn Buchanan was coming, I sent that email out to everybody because that was a really important meeting. And I wanted to make sure everybody knew that we had a premium guest coming in here. And that's why I do that. So, and I also just kind of to go over the finances. I pay rent. I have to rent this building. It's $50. They give me a discount because Mufon's a nonprofit. But the folks here at Otero Arts are very, very helpful with letting us use their chairs and letting us use their screen. And they do an awful lot. We were graced with 2 guest speakers this year, and I'm going to try to get more because everybody really, really enjoyed the guest speakers, and I really enjoyed getting a break and having a guest speaker up there because their experiences were Mr. Kessner, with his experience working for the DoD and in counterintelligence, it was very insightful. We heard a lot of Roswell stories. All of us heard Roswell, and it's always the same thing. Kessner came in here with a different point of view on Roswell and how it was managed by the DoD and how they managed our expectations and what we saw. I liked really hearing his viewpoint on that. It was very, very refreshing. And Lynn Buchanan telling us about his abduction and him being in the flying saucer, that was wild. A firsthand report of it was fantastic. And I can't wait to get him back here again. So he said he'd come back, and I'm going to take him up on it. So look, I am never going to charge for these meetings. I ask for donations. I'm never going to charge you unless Linda Moon-Howe walks through that back door. If Linda Moon-Howe walks through that back door, then I will ask for gas money for her. But other than that, I don't feel, I want people to come here and talk of their own free will, and I don't want them to feel like, I don't want to feel like I'm entertaining, but I don't want to feel like I'm here to entertain you. I'm here to inform you and to let you know what's going on. The donations were fantastic. Like I said, for all the equipment we got, now we can hear, now we can see. So, and like I said, we'll be back again next year. I finally figured out how to make a QR code, everybody. Yay. So I know. I record the PowerPoint programs using Zoom, and then I put them on YouTube. So it's nothing fancy. I'm not that great at it. I'm getting better. I link them together. So if anyone wants to go back and look at them, just last night I sent a link to a podcast to the guy on the radio station. There was a guy on a radio station that wants to interview me about the Holloman incident. And I said, well, here, look at our podcast that I did on our meeting, and it'll give you some ideas for some questions and whatnot, and then we'll talk about it. I use a lot of stuff from YouTube. News Nation's Ross Coldhart, he's my number one guy I go to for stuff. Richard Dolan's on there, and I also got this guy from Tijuana. His name is Pavel Ibarra. I really like him. He's really one of my favorites. And of course, the Paranormal Rangers, the Sasquatch Chronicles, and then there's this guy named Jesse Michaels, who's also very informative on YouTube. QR code for Facebook. I have 2 Facebook pages because Facebook made me do 2 pages. I had to have one called New Mexico Mufon and one called New Mexico Mufon Group. It's the only way I could get a calendar and do invites and get also the ones on the New Mexico MUFON page go into local events and whatnot that come up on other people's pages. So I use that one for just like the headquarters stuff. That's like headquarters and the general stuff you see. But the New Mexico MUFON group is more or less about Alamogordo. I try to keep it local. I try to keep it about coffee cups and flying saucers. I keep it about MUFON Alamogordo sightings. When people on other sites report stuff in Alamogordo, I make sure I reply to it from the New Mexico MUFON group page. That way it comes over and you guys can all see it. So that's important. I figured that out along the way with Facebook. So now I'm going to discuss the new project. Alamogordo, Alamo UFOs. Okay. I took this picture over by the airport one morning when there was snow on the Sacramentos. We all look at these mountains every day and we see a lot of stuff we can't explain coming in and out of those mountains. So I had an idea for a project, and I want to start tracking all of our activity that we see. Maybe we'll find out what it is. Maybe not, but either way, we keep record of it. And I can report about it here. It's not a MUFON report. It's a coffee cups and flying saucer. I saw a light in the Sacramento's report. That's all it really is. I started a chat group on WhatsApp. It's called Alamo UFOs. And I want to use this app And what basically was happening, if you see a light that you know you can't figure out what it is, it's not a plane, it's not a, no. You get on that WhatsApp, Alamo UFOs, and you say, I'm looking up 9th Avenue and I see a light, blah, 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 whatever. We can all get copied on it, and we can all go look ourselves. Maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. But I log it, kind of like how I did those Mufon logs. I'm just going to, not your name. I'm not going to put anybody's name up there because that's just the way I am. But I will put your initials, figure it out yourself. The date, the time, what you saw, so we can notify each other. And I just want to do it in the Sacramento. How's that? I made a map, because you know me and maps. I made a map. This is a Google map. This is from Google Maps. It's free. Yay. You can see I put 54 is running north to south. North to south. That's White Sands Boulevard there at the bottom. And then we're looking east at the mountains. Those green ones are with the alien heads on them. Those are all mountain peaks. I named them all out. So if you see a light around Ortega Peak, you can look right at that and see it. Or if somebody tells me that they're looking up Panorama, I know they're looking at Hirschberg. So this map is really helpful. I also put some other those little blue spots are really just streets. Our streets that run west to east are numbers. Our ones that run north to south are states. That's how Alamogordo was laid out back in the 1800s. That's how they laid the town out. Again, the numbers go east to west and the states go north and south. So, and also I put a big A where the big A mountain is. There's a big A right there. And you see these red bubbles? I get reports from there constantly. That's a hot area. That's a real hot area there. We get an awful lot of stuff there. This one right here, I call that guy the king of the hill. That's the house. That's the highest house dwelling. I don't know who lives there. Dude's got the view, but he's the highest. So if you see anything above the king of the hill, there's no roads up there. There's no houses up there. There's no street lights up there. You see a light up there, you're seeing something. So that's kind of why I marked him right there where I put him. But where's my next one? Oh, here it is. Here it is using Google Maps, which is like your map app when you're driving around. Same view, just a different. It's the same settings. It's just a different view. This is called, which is easier because you can see the streets coming across and whatnot. So some people prefer that view, but I left the mountains. And you see this Alamo Peak right here? Everybody look at that. That's a damn light we all see. That's a damn light at the top of the hill we all see. It's a ranger station from the 1920s. It's called Alamo Peak. It's a beacon light, and it's still in use. It's an identifier for incoming air traffic for White Sands Regional. Civil Air Patrol uses it, and Holloman uses it. Holloman actually owns it. Now, this is what it looks like up there. No, I didn't go up there. I stole these off the internet. But this picture here is you're looking at it to the north. This up here is Tularosa and La Luz. You're looking at a side view, but that's the damn light that everybody sees up there on that mountain. It's at 9,270 feet, and it's the highest point we can see from Alamogordo. There's higher peaks, there's higher mountains, but we can't see them from town. Well, this is the highest point that we can see from town. Someone braver than I took pictures. That's what it looks like from a drone view over here. But someone took pictures at night and during the day from when you're standing up there and you look out over Alamogordo. That's what we look like from up there. So I just want everyone to be. I get a lot of MUFON reports of that light up there, and you can drive to Alamo Peak. It's off of Sunspot Highway. There's a sign there that says you can go to Alamo Peak. It's 17 miles off of Sunspot Highway, and it's a rough ride. But you can go out there if you don't believe me. Trust me, it's there. So what I want you to do is, if you see something, anybody who wants to participate, my phone number's up there. 860-324-7614. I'm from Connecticut. I got a cell phone in when I lived in Connecticut. I'm not giving that number up. I'll never remember a new one. It was my first cell phone. I got it when I was like 50. Honest to God, that was it. But what I want you to do is, if you see something, you can send that to me, and I'll send you an invite to the group chat. You can join the group chat and send it to me. You know, I prefer if you send it through the group chat, we all see it. We'll all see it in the group chat. Everybody will ding, and you can look and see what that ding. You can even make that ding a different sound if you like. You know, I don't know how to do it, but I know you can. But you can look at it, and if it's someone who's looking at something at that moment, you can see it. If I get it, I'm going to go on flight radar, and I'm going to tell everybody if it's a plane, if it's not a plane, if it's been checked. I'm going to look at stellarium, and I'm going to tell you if that's a Venus, or if it's Jupiter. I'm going to let you know that right away. Also, helicopters frequently go up and down. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people say, oh, it's military. Not in the Sacramento's. You're not going to fly a $16 billion plane in these mountains. You can wreck them too easy. You know what I mean? Those planes are out at White Sands. They're out White Sands. They're not flying in Sacramento's. I'm not saying there's not helicopters and there's not police. When there's a jailbreak at Otero, that helicopter's zooming around, but it comes up on flight radar, and I know it. I know it too because I live near it. But, you know, they're out there looking around. So I have an example. There's my example. It's me. This is my example on August 1st at 10:30 to 11 o'clock. I watched an object above Thunder Road, above the King of the Hill. It was his house. There were my notes. I wrote on a little piece of paper that was next to my back door. I got on Facebook when I was done looking at that light. Somebody else was watching it. He took a picture. He took a picture right there of it. I lifted that from Facebook. At the exact same time, there were 4 other people chatting on Facebook saying, hey, you see that light? Anybody else see that light? What the hell is that? So the next day I drove down to Walgreens, because this person was at Walgreens, and I wanted to line it up myself to make sure that he was looking at the same thing I was looking at, and they were. But I made a little drawing because I was looking at it with a binocular. I had a binocular, and it wasn't a dot when you zeroed in on it. It kind of looked like a Christmas tree. It looked like a Christmas tree. It had jagged edges. The middle was a real bright light. It had a blue line along the inside, and the outsides were sparkly, like kind of thing going on. But this little drawing I made was from Walgreens. I made a little drawing of it and everything. But this is what I mean by Alamo UFOs. I logged it in. I put it in there. You know, that's what I intend to. I went back. Too far back. That's what I intend to do with the project. Is I just kind of want to keep it on that level, local, so it's something that we all understand and can identify, because we all know where Walgreens is. We all know where everything is. So, and also too, when I put it on there, it makes a little orange binoculars. So every time somebody sees something, I'm going to put a little dot with an orange binocular. And as this thing grows, I'll show it at every meeting. And we'll see where all the little binoculars are, so we can see where people are seeing things. And we'll be able to all look at it and say, you know, I saw it or I didn't. And again, we may even identify what it is, because there's an awful lot of activity out there, an awful lot. So that's it in a nutshell. I can also give you a link to this thing in Google Earth if you want to look at the map. It's out there and it's free. So I was talking a little bit about doing a radio interview for this. We talked about, can I get that? Hey, we talked about coffee cups and flying saucers, and it was with Dan DeFrancesco of radio station KSFR. We talked a lot about Mufon, but mostly about coffee cups and flying saucers. It was broadcast on November 18th. If you want to hear me talk about our program, you can go to that link right there and it'll show up, and this is it. It goes across. I talked to him for about 45 minutes. I got a phone call from him last night because there is a lot of talk about the Holloman landing right now. It was in the new movie, The Age of Disclosure, that came out. They spoke a lot about the Holloman landing because President Bush discussed that with several of the people who were in the movie, The Age of Disclosure. And I talked about it, of course, last May, about my findings and also about the affidavit from the base commander's son at the time of that landing that kind of solidifies the date of it. So he wants to talk more about that, and I'm going to talk to him because that's my topic. That's my research project. So hopefully in the next month or so, when we're here for the next meeting, I'll have a link up there for that. But it's very interesting. Also, I intend to do more local events, like with a booth in the upcoming year, like the kind of the local stuff that goes on around here. I'm going to put a Mufon bench up and hand out information about coffee cups and stuff. I got nothing to sell. I'm not selling stuff. I'm selling knowledge. I want people to know more about our project here and our program, and just that we could all talk about what we're seeing and what we're doing. I also want to expand to Las Cruces. I want to be able to go to Las Cruces. Maybe I can get over there once or twice this year and get a feel if there's if it could support another meeting also in Las Cruces monthly. If anybody has any contacts at New Mexico University, please let me know, because our age group here is a little one-sided. It'd be nice to know how interested college students would be in this topic and about learning more about it and what's in the Tularosa Basin. I'd love to be able to talk to a college group or a local group kind of about what we do here and what we see here. So I'd like to do that. And Skywatch, I keep telling you guys we're going to do a Skywatch. We're going to do one at the Turtle. I know, we're going to do one at the Turtle, the Trinity Turtle. It's a beautiful location. And Teresa from the Capped building down on New York Avenue, she's agreed to let us have a Skywatch at the Turtle. So, and I highly recommend visiting the Turtle. It's a very good place to think and to contemplate things. They have 3 labrys now that you can walk out there. I believe they represent the past, the present, and the future. But I'm going to review the moon phases and on Saturday nights, because I want to get a nice dark night. Now they have lights there. They have low-level lights, but from the labyrinth over to test group is like all their property, and we could set up out there away from the lights, and we could do us a Skywatch. So on that little clipboard, I put, who's interested in going to the Skywatch? So if you're interested, let me know. I'm going to find out more about doing that. It's probably something we'll do. I don't want to do it when it's stinking hot out, even though it does get cooler at night. But again, I want to get us a night, and I'm not going to do it when it's cold because I'm not going to freeze out there either. But again, it's a great location. It's right next to test group. If we don't see flying saucers, maybe we'll see some spooky stuff coming out of test group. But that's always good. So anyhow, again, I'm going to wrap it up. I just want to thank everybody for helping me keeping this show on the road. Jerry and Craig helping me with the setup and the put down. Tammy and Maria, the same thing, man, you guys, especially you, Tammy. Tammy, climate heating and air. I don't know what I'd do without. I don't know what I'd do without Tammy most days. So, and also my flight. Thank you to my flight. Thank you, OMRS. We are the best. And I hope everybody has a happy new year. Hope to see you all this year. Our next meeting is Saturday, January 17th. So again, that's it, guys.